boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and today we are going to review Meg 2, The Trench, which is currently playing in a theater near you. This is a sequel to the 2018 film, The Meg, which starred Jason Statham, and he's returning in this film. And the premise of this go around, it follows a group of scientists who must outrun and outswim megalodons when a malevolent mining operation threatens their mission and forces them into a high stakes battle for survival. This is the worst movie I've seen in 2023. I can't even front. This movie was so bad from every stage of filmmaking. The one thing that brought me joy after I finished watching this movie, I had zero, and I mean, you can go negative, whatever. I had zero expectations for this movie, but I said, I'm bored. There's nothing else to watch, so why not go check out Meg 2? I watched the first one, and I had fun with the first one. I didn't hate the first one, even though it was bad. It was it was bad, but it had its moments where I was like, okay, that's interesting. But overall, it's not a good movie. This movie is the rare sequel to take the original's mistakes and compound it and multiply it by 30 and just repeat it over and over again. Instead of improving on the good things from the Meg, they doubled down on all the bad parts of the Meg and came up with the Meg 2. This go around, we have Ben Wheatley directing this film, and he directed a film back in 2016 called Free Fire. It was a small little film that came out of nowhere. It starred Brie Larson, Armie Hammer, and a few other people. I can't think of who all was in it, but it was an exciting movie. I love Free Fire, and I don't know, I don't know why this movie turned out the way it did. It was so bad. There's not a redeeming quality in this film. If you watch the trailer for the Meg 2, The Trench, if you've seen the full-length trailer, you've seen every interesting part of this movie. I kid you not. There is nothing outside of those 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm guessing a number, because that's normally the runtime of a trailer. It was boring. This movie was 2 hours long. 2 hours. And I just told you that the most interesting parts were in a trailer that lasted 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So that leaves you 1 hour and 57 minutes of boredom. It was boring. It had no story, no structure. Look, I know we're in the middle of a writer's strike. We're in the middle of an actor's strike. And it pains me to say, the writing in this movie was bad. The acting in this movie was bad. Nothing worked. Nothing worked in this movie. Here's what makes the writing so bad. The writing, aside from the dialogue that was just, I don't know. It's like maybe this was a chat GPT or whatever it's called, the AI thing. Maybe it felt like AI wrote this script. It really did, because they had zero emotion. There was no story structure. They set up things throughout this film. There are things that they set up, and it goes absolutely nowhere. And if they would have executed the things that they set up, this movie would have been better than what turned out to be. I might as well go spoilers, because it don't matter. It really doesn't. It's really nothing to spoil here. If you've seen the first Meg, you've seen this one, but it's worse. If you didn't like the Meg, You are going to hate Meg 2. The They have these suits that this corporation is developing so they can explore the trench, where all the megalodons and other prehistoric creatures reside. And they made these suits that can withstand the pressure of the trench, right? So they can actually walk in the trench. One of the main characters, he's testing out the suit. He's punching these brick center blocks or whatever and just punching through them. And, it's like a Iron Man suit. And I'm like, okay, they're going to go toe to toe with the Megs and stuff. They set up these suits to be a major part of the story at the beginning of this film. We get to when they go down into the trench. Accident happens to whereas they have to exit their diving submarine Medigi. And they get out with these suits and they got to walk to this mining station that nobody knew existed now. This thing was actually built in the trench, but whatever. They had to walk to get to it. The suits do no justice. One of the guys who's in the suit, he gets eaten. It doesn't protect him at all from that, So that pokes a hole through the theory that these suits are going to be important. They're running out of oxygen. They finally get to where they need to get to, but the suits are damaged and all this other stuff. So Jason Statham's character, who I'm assuming is the half brother of Aquaman, not Prince Owen, but he got to be somebody else. And so he has to find a way to get to the other side of this mining station to open the doors and the rest of so they can escape and all this other foolishness. So he's like, okay, I can make that. And his daughter is telling him, because she came along for the ride, of course. His daughter tells him, no, you can't do it. You won't survive. Oh, we just got to blow the air out of your sinuses and you can survive for about 60 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds. And he actually goes out with no suit, no nothing, and just blows the air through his nose. And you see the blood coming out of his nose, to empty out the air in his sinuses so it won't be any air to compress in his body. And he swims in the trench and gets to the other side. We just witnessed in real life. Now, I know this is a movie, it's fantasy, and you're supposed to suspend disbelief. But we just witnessed in real life those poor souls that was on that whatever, that little submerged thing, just compress and die instantly, they said. It was like a nanosecond. They didn't even realize that they died. That's how fast the compression, the air, the pressure down where they were going to try to look at the Titanic and all that stuff. That's how fast that pressure will compress you. But you mean to tell me, and theoretically, with this film's logic, they were deeper than that. And you mean to tell me this dude could just swim all because he blew air out of his nose? I'm sitting there like, okay, I know this is supposed to be cheesy. This is supposed to be some sort of camp, but I'm like, no, bro, we not doing this. We got to do better than this. This is so bad. They set up this villainous plot. Like I said, they were in this mining thing that's at the bottom of the trench that was secretly built by the corporation that they worked for but didn't know. And there's a mold in their team that is letting on to the sabotaging their mission, so they won't find the mining thing and all this other. Like, this is so convoluted. This makes no logical sense. None of this makes any logical sense. When the villain reveals herself, she didn't even have to reveal herself. They didn't know nothing. They didn't know it was her. She just like, oh yeah, it was me. You know, she tell him, she's like, what are you doing? But she was trying to cover it up so they wouldn't expose her. She exposed herself. The whole point of her sabotaging the mission is so they wouldn't know it was her. And she just voluntarily tells them it was her. What was the point? What was the point? It made no sense whatsoever. I'm not going through this whole movie. This movie was horrible. It was horrible. Like I said, the acting was bad. Look, Jason Statham is Jason Statham. Jason Statham is the same guy in every single movie. So I'm not hating him because he was who he was. This is who Jason Statham is. So I can't get mad at him. You know, he is who he is. Anywho's. But you still had some pretty decent actors in this movie that were horrible. Cliff Curtis. I love Cliff Curtis. Cliff Curtis is amazing in 99.9995 movies that he appears in. And this is that small percentage that he wasn't. This was so bad. He was so bad. All the other actors, nobody. I think everybody was just there to get a check. Honestly. And look, I always say on this show, on all my shows, filmmaking is hard. Filmmaking is a difficult task. And a lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into making movies, whether they're good or bad, whether you like them or not. And I respect that. And I respect people who jump into this craft because this is something I dreamt of doing my whole life. So I don't like to bash films like this. But when you watch a movie and you don't see any effort from nobody, I mean, no effort at all. It's infuriating. This movie cost $140 million to make. Who greenlit this movie? Really? Wow, horrible. Then at the end, I will say this. At the end, one of the Megalodons is loose, but this is the Megalodon that they caught and was in their facility at the beginning of the film, but it got loose and all this other stuff. And one of the guys, he feel he could train it, redirect it. He's been having his clicker and he's trying to use it. It didn't work in the beginning of the film. So it was the ultimate setup at the end that it would work. It didn't work again. It didn't work. What drew the Megalodon away was a pack of dolphins or a school of dolphins that was swimming close by, and he went after that. But whatever. And that was it. That was pretty much the end until it was revealed that, oh yeah, it's a possibility that she's pregnant. Ho hum, nobody cared. And credits roll, which I guess that's a setup for a third. Man, miss me with all of that. Miss me with all of that. I can't do it. To sum it all up, this was, like I said, probably the worst movie I've seen this year. As far as a big summer blockbuster film, this was the worst. I honestly, it's not worth going to the theater to see. If you wait till it comes on, what was this, Warner Brothers? So it'll come on Max. Wait for it to come on Max. Don't waste your money going to the theater to see this. Even those who are purists, like myself, who want to see this in IMAX and want to see it on the big screen, the sharks, it's not worth, because it's not shot good. You barely see anything. It's not shot good. It doesn't look good. Seriously, it's not even worth it. Yeah. Poorly acted, poorly written, poorly directed, which is the recipe for a poorly made film. Meg 2, The Trench, gets a letter grade of the dreaded F. Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad film. I honestly, I don't know how it made that much money as opening weekend, it is mind-boggling. But I'm pretty sure that it won't make that much in the second or third. but good on them for making whatever it is they made. I would like to know what you thought of the Meg 2, The Trench. Did you like it? Do you think I'm tripping? I don't know what I'm talking about. Man, I would love to hear from you and tell me, what did you see in this movie that you felt it was decent? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look me up on all social media platforms. Just look up the KB Radio Network. Also, look up the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and like this video. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this spirited review of Meg 2, The Trench. Can't wait to speak to you on the next go around. Want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.